we're shooting the Aurora. Amazing. We're shooting on the Z6III, and as you can see at 51,000 ISO, still looking good.
It was New Year's Day, about 11:30 at night, and we were staying with some friends in a little town called Venus Bay, which is close to being one of the most southern tips of mainland Victoria. We were singing songs around the campfire, and Jesus, who you can see here, he was playing the guitar and we were singing along. We looked towards the sky and it was unusually bright. Is that an aurora, we thought. We quickly pulled out our phones and sure enough, the aurora was going strong. I said to Jesus, we got to go. We got to capture this. Do you want to come down to the beach with me? So between about 11:30 and heading on towards 2 a.m, we stood there trying to capture this amazing natural phenomenon. Now, I've never shot an aurora before and I hadn't brought the appropriate gear to do it. The widest lens I had was 18mm. It's a lens that I'm reviewing, but it happens to be a pancake lens and it happens to be 5.6. And this is where this crazy story begins. What is the aurora? What we are seeing are atoms and molecules in our atmosphere colliding with particles from the sun. The aurora's characteristic wavy patterns and curtains of light are caused by the lines of force in the Earth's magnetic field. The lowest part of an aurora is typically around 130 kilometers above the Earth's surface. However, the top of a display may extend several thousand of kilometers above the Earth. The two primary gases in the Earth's atmosphere are nitrogen and oxygen, and these elements give off different colours during an aurora display. The green we see in the aurora is characteristic of oxygen, while hints of purple, blue or pink are caused by nitrogen. So why didn't I have the right gear? Well, the reason for that is I did not know we were going to be getting an aurora. There can be predictions of auroras, but that doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen. Plus, I was down the coast for a family holiday. I took with me a couple of lenses that I was reviewing, the 18mm 5.6 pancake and a 55mm 1.8, both reviews coming soon. I also brought with me the general purpose but super high quality 24 to 72.8S. These, along with the 50mm 1.2, were the widest lenses that I had. 24 at 2.8, pretty good. I would prefer an f2, a 1.8, a 1.4, or even a 1.2 for this type of photography in something wider. For example, the Viltrox 16mm 1.8 would have been absolutely optimal versus an 18mm fixed at 5.6 lens. That's a pancake lens. We had to make do. Z8 with the 24 to 72.8, 10 seconds, 2.8. To me, it's quite interesting. What is the color temperature when you're shooting at night time? Should it be based on the sun? Should it be, for example, 5500? And then we look like that. Doesn't seem right to me, but that could be based on the fact that that is the light that I had as a reference point. There was a distant car park light, which is what's illuminating the foreground here. An interesting conundrum, what color should it be? Now, when we look at a lot of other aurora photos, they are much more in the vein of what we're seeing here through these files. So something to keep in mind. Well, the color temperature can change these files quite significantly if we just change this ever so slightly, and we get quite a different result. I'm not 100% sure what the correct thing here is to do. As I've said before, I've never photographed an aurora before. I did look at some other people's work, and it does seem to sit somewhere between this and this. People seem to be choosing kind of their own approach to exactly where the color temperature should lie, but it's something to keep in mind. I wanted to show you this image because it's pretty hard to tell, but it was actually really, really windy. And as we came to the corner of this cliff slash hill slash dune, this lookout point, the wind was really hitting us really hard. And after taking a few shots, I realized the camera over 10, 20, 30, 60 seconds was being buffeted. So I was actually standing, and there my hands. I was standing to try and protect the camera while it was doing these long exposures. This shot was for me to see where could my hands go. This is not part of the aurora. And this sort of thing is just another kind of something that you don't really think about, perhaps, is the fact that you're trying to get a shot in these very difficult conditions. You can see we're walking around with torches because it's actually a lot darker than what it looks like in these photos. And not only are we dealing with the darkness, but we're dealing with high wind. Just something else to consider, because long exposures, one little movement and, well, you're done, you're toast. So that's kind of the shot that it ended up being without me being in it. And you can see there that the plants are moving. Some of the trees and bushes and grasses are moving a lot. This is probably my favorite image from the evening, shot with the 24 to 72.8S. We're on the Z8 shooting ISO 640, 20 seconds. And what I love about this is the context. You get the sense of human scale, this park bench that's looking over the ocean. We can see the ocean, but just this immense sky and what's going on. To me, this brings scale. An image like this is absolutely awesome. Love it. But you don't get that same sense of place and scale. It kind of could be anywhere, and you kind of don't know what focal length is being used. Now, I just wanted to show here that, very little has been done in the way of adjustment. Obviously, you could choose to turn up the color a little bit, like that is not much compared to the scale that we have available to us. I don't think that's a big deal. Basically, every time I took a shot, the intensity of the light, the color, the patterns, everything was changing all the time. Sometimes it was brighter and the colors were richer, and sometimes it wasn't. In this particular location, because we could only just make this out with the human eye, and it's only under longer exposures that you see the colors, we could just see the colors. A 20-second exposure reveals so much more. Not a bad result. I think for 20 seconds with all the wind that's blowing, you can see a lot of movement in some of these bushes that were really being buffeted. And then we do have a little bit of star movement, which I'm actually okay with, because this is not about the stars. This is about the aurora, the color, and these lines, these patterns that are going on. To me, a massive success, considering I've never photographed this type of thing ever before. And I wanted to show you this image because there's the 24-70, but this is with the pancake lens on the Z8. This lens is so small that you can't actually see it in this image. And it was quite frustrating to not have a wider, faster lens, to have a lens which is a fixed 5.6. So I can't even go to f8. I can't go below 5.6. It's the only wide lens that I had. What I would start to call in the super wide category. 24 is wide, but it's not super wide. You know, got to give it a go. And well, this was the results of that. And I'm pretty impressed. Now, check out this metadata here. Now, the reason this says Nocti is because I was in such a hurry and I was more interested in getting the aurora. We were worried that these clouds were coming and they would obscure the night sky. So I didn't bother to tell the Z8 that I had a new non-CPU lens on there. So this was the previous completely manual lens that I had shot with, the Nocti 50mm 1.8, and this lens is actually the 18mm 5.6. This lens allows for, I think, slightly over a 90-degree view, so we're seeing across the horizon and almost directly above me, and you can kind of see that here from the angle that the camera is at. That's how much we're managing to get in the frame. Although I think this angle was for just sky only shot. I actually think that angle was for this image. We're getting the horizon and we're getting straight above the camera. This is really what I wanted to talk about. It's about making do. I could have just said, there's just no point shooting with a 5.6 lens. We're not going to get a result. It won't be worth it. This is like a $100 lens. Why try? Why bother? I think it was worth it for this image here and for this image here. And yes, these are 60-second exposures, and yes, the stars are going to be moving, and yes, the clouds are moving. I really like both of these captures. And of course, I tried the Z6III. It has far less pixels than a Z8. High ISO performance is better, and we're shooting here on the 50mm 1.2S. What I wanted to do here was ensure that we could see we were looking at the ocean, and thus the waves were not moving too much. I did take some slower exposures, but the waves just became this white blur. Here we can still clearly see that these are waves, and that was very important to me. So we're at 3200 ISO. I've done no extra noise reduction on this image. You are seeing it here straight in capture 1. We're just over 1 second. We're at 1.6 of a second at 1.2 at 50mm. Now, looking out into that ocean with the human eye, that was near on complete darkness. So I think this result is very impressive. I love the mood it creates. And this is not about ultimate sharpness and ultimate anything. This is about the mood. And I think all of these images do mood 100%. And mood, storytelling, has always been far more important to me than corner-to-corner sharpness and everything else that we can ever talk about. And that's why, again, getting those shots with the 5.6 18mm and getting the mood was more important than anything else. We did it, we had a crack, we got there, we got the results. And for my first time shooting these sorts of things, super happy with the outcomes. And now I know whenever I go down to this location, I will always bring Aurora equipment. For sure, no question. This is the Z6III with the 50mm 1.2. We're looking up into the sky. Sometimes it's hard to get focus, but I think also the clouds are moving. Sky is moving, and of course, the more telephoto we get, the more obvious that is. The wider we are, the less obvious that is. But I just wanted to show you the color. It was just so variable. You can see here I've done no adjustments to the color. And if I turn down the shadows, this file is completely untouched. No adjustments. And I just wanted to show that the color and the intensity of the Aurora, it's just changing constantly, all the time. It's really interesting to me that it can be just really strong and really bright, and then the next second it's not. And this color is similar to this color, but this color I have turned up the color a bit to make it match. And again, I'm just showing you how these colors can and do exist in Auroras, but they come and go at a pretty quick rate. If we turn down to 0, still very colourful. But because this is not a 1.2 lens, it's a 2.8 lens, and because the Aurora is always changing, that dynamic between time and the amount of light you're capturing in any given time, it changes things. And because this is 2.8, we're just not capturing as much light to the sensor every second that we do with the 1.2 lens. So I'm really looking forward to some more 1.2 lenses, hopefully some wider lenses. You know how much I love the 85 1.2 and the 50mm 1.2. I didn't have the 85 1.2 with me. I did have the Planner, but I decided not to shoot with the Planner because I felt that 135 was just too tight a crop and we wouldn't have been able to see this beautiful gradation that we can see here between the green, the magenta, and the moving on to purple. It's just extraordinary stuff. All I've done is bring up the shadows and played with the contrast a little bit, and this is the sort of result that you can get. Do you need the best equipment to get a result? Absolutely not. We can see it here. I've gone from a $100 lens all the way up to like a $3,000 lens, and we're getting results with all of them. Does having the more expensive lens make things better? Yes, it does. It does make it easier and sharper and faster and all those sorts of things. And thus, you can step into this world, and this is the Aurora world or just the photography world, wherever you like. You can still get results. And then as you spend more, just like with any technology, the more you spend, the more you get. Here is a $3,000 zoom lens, and here is a $100 fixed aperture 18mm pancake lens. Both of them are giving us results. I'd love to know, have you ever captured an Aurora? And also, I'm really interested in stories where you've seen something amazing that you want to photograph, but you haven't had the right lens. Did you persevere? And did you still get the shot? I'd love you to tell me about that in the comments below. All right, everybody, it's been so good to see you. And if this is your first time here, I'd love to see you again. So please do subscribe, please share, and please like. All right, bye for now.